Ladies and gentlemen, let's RedGamer.com video. We're going to be discussing a recent interview that DICE have conducted regarding the cloud. Now, Battlefield 4 is of course going to be an extremely popular game. However, DICE have weighed in on their thoughts on AI as well as other cloud-based technologies. It seems that just about every developer out there has something to say on the cloud, and it is definitely one of the more controversial topics right now that's going about. Some developers absolutely adore the cloud and the various technologies that it can bring. Others, on the other hand, are more slow to adopt and say that they are cautious with their approach. But enough of such things. Let's move on to the interview. Now, it's from the creative director. His name is Lars Gustafsson. I'm thinking that's how you pronounce it. Anyway, that is Gustavsson. Apologies if I've pronounced that horribly incorrectly. I have not encountered the name before, and therefore I probably butchered it very badly. Anyway, so I'm going to start reading out his quotes. It was quite, in our world, unorthodox to develop a small AI drone that you could have with you in Battlefield 2142. You could have it as the battle upgrade, floating over you and shooting enemies. And we've been talking about being able to place AI paratroops in there on the battle. It's not something we have built for Battlefield 4. With 64 players, we feel that there's more than enough in our world. In a co-op experience, AI support is super cool, but in multiplayer, we've had feedback that people preferred dying from real human bullets rather than at the hands of an AI that's too accurate or something that just feels more fair if I get killed by a human player. So, I'm not saying that we're not going to be doing it in the future. I see potential in it. But based on the feedback we've had and a huge number of players we've already had on the battlefield, we've stayed away from it from now. For the moment, we're moving ahead with our traditional setup, but as always, whatever is best for the game, whatever is best for the consumer, we'll look into that sooner or later. And with the power of Frostbite, out of quote just for a moment, Frostbite is the new engine they're working on. It's had multiple revisions, and now they're on Frostbite 3 for Battlefield 4, back into quote. And the power of multiple teams working within EA on Frostbite, we are constantly looking into new possibilities. So it's definitely interesting. We'll see what happens down the line. Now, out of quote, and let's do a little bit of analysis on this just for a moment. Some people are really misinterpreting the cloud, and I don't mean that in a besmirching their intelligence or anything like that, but Microsoft are the ones that are really pioneering it, and it can be really easy to lump all of the cloud technologies into one bucket, if you will, one bucket of fun, and that's not really fair. Titanfall, for example, and other games are using the cloud in multiple different ways. Now, I've been fairly vocal on my thoughts of the cloud. I've still got a couple more videos actually to put out on it. But the cloud is not just one of those pieces of technology that is exclusive to the Xbox One. Remnants, or rather parts of it, are being used on the PlayStation 4. For example, the Gaikai technology. Or, in some cases, it may be used, for example, for, say, dedicated servers. And the developers at Titanfall, developers behind Titanfall, should I say, have also said that, you know what, that technically they could actually have the same server binary on all of the platforms, but they just don't think it's the best way to go. And they can basically spin up servers, which is basically their way of saying, well, we start up servers. I'm not going to go too much into that. I will be putting out another cloud video soon, but I've already got one up, so you guys can check that out. It does go into it. You could probably just search Xbox Azure on the channel, and you'll pop up with some stuff already. And their basic idea is that, look, they can set up servers and so on. And it does have some advantages, like, for example, eliminating the need to host titles, and that could be good because it reduces CPU usage. In other words, your console acting as a server uses a certain percentage of your console CPU, more than the other players, in other words. So, because your system is basically needing to keep track of the server acting, to do all the bits and pieces that a server should do. So, for example, taking score and listening to the connections of all the other players and more besides. And so, in that respect, the ability to pretty much create a cheap and high-performance infrastructure with the cloud technology is definitely something that developers are going to be looking at. And of course, we know that the Forza developers are going to be using the Microsoft Cloud to improve the artificial intelligence. I think it's going to become a bigger thing in later years, especially as developers are finding that more and more people have access to faster connections. Right now, for example, the average internet connection is not like 50 megabytes per second or whatever. But it's going to become a hell of a lot faster, especially in the UK. You know, we're on 120 megabits per second is like the fastest for most people, which is what I've got. But they're actually going to be trialing even like 1 Gbps. So it's going to become a hell of a lot faster very quickly, but it doesn't sort out certain issues such as latency. But what they will be doing is able to start masking that some way. And I think that we're going to start having much better client-side prediction when it comes to stuff like physics. And I think those things such as AI are going to really start to be uploaded to the cloud. It's going to be very interesting because obviously the PlayStation 4 has GPU in abundance, which is of course general purpose computing on the GPU. And in that case, it's actually a pretty good platform because, as it turns out, AI and physics actually run extraordinarily well on the GPU. And the PlayStation 4 does have the resources to do it. The Xbox One also can do some of it. But of course, the bottom line is, the Xbox One does have one slight advantage. If a lot of this is being offloaded to the cloud, and it becomes more the norm for developers to offload it to the cloud, because let's just assume that they feel that the technology lends itself more easily, more readily on the Xbox One, it definitely is going to become possibly more normal for the Xbox One versions of titles to have their own dedicated servers, which may or may not prove to be good in a long period of time. For example, we've discussed some of this stuff before in regards to the fact that the problem with cloud is that obviously it needs the developers themselves to continue to maintain those servers. And bottom line is, if they don't exist anymore, certain features can be disabled, which is one of the big concerns I have with it. It also, however, could also free up other resources, for example AI, for larger multi-scale games. So there are a lot of different factors, and to be honest with you, we're in really early days of the cloud technology yet. So I think this is just another example of a developer weighing in. Obviously, they are not saying that they're going to jump on it. They are really looking into this. And honestly speaking, and this is my own personal viewpoint on how I personally play games, I really don't like AI and so on in terms of auto kill. And it's actually something that I even have against titles like Call of Duty, where you can, for example, call in airstrikes and so on. I actually hate that in multiplayer because I don't like using it, and I don't like being killed by it. Why? Not because I don't feel that the player themselves have earned it, as in, like, you know, they obviously have to have kill streaks or do whatever is the required thing to get that, but I just think it's like the worst way. I just think it's boring, and I don't really think it adds anything to the game. That's my own personal opinion. I'm not saying that, you know, if you enjoy that, you're wrong. I just personally find myself finding that to be irritating or taking away something in the game. I think it's a bit different for example, putting like a trip mine there, because that's not really AI, and I don't really have a problem with, you know what, if I stumble into someone's trip mine because I was, you know, an idiot and didn't see the wire going across or whatever. That's all on me. That's my problem. That's, you know, my issue. Too bad for me. But when it comes to stuff such as AI drones or whatever, I do have a slight issue with that. So I can somewhat see what he's saying about 64 players. If there was also a plethora of different drones involved as well, it could start getting messy. So maybe not for the Battlefield 4 series, also I say for Battlefield 4 as is, but who knows in the future what we're going to be seeing. Anyway, this has been a relatively brief video for me. You know, now my videos usually turn out to be a heck of a lot longer, but regardless, hopefully you found it somewhat interesting and informative. As usual, if you have any questions or queries, you can attack me on Facebook. That would be facebook.com/redgamingtech. I do try to respond to all messages. I have been getting a rather lot of them. Let's just go with a lot recently. So if I don't get back to you in like a day or two, it's not because I'm like ignoring you or whatever. It's simply because I have a hell of a lot to do over the next couple of weeks, and it's a real pain in the ass to try and find time to fit everything in, unfortunately. All will be revealed soon, but I'm trying to work on the applications that I've been promising you guys that I'm going to be revealing for, unveiling for free, and a lot more besides, as well as looking into a server move for RGT. I actually did sort out a server, but then stuff happened with that, and a lot more besides. You know what, I need to create a vlog to go into a lot of this stuff. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.